What is exception here? There is nothing but errors. That means students are able to handle the errors very effectively. What is class? It's mainly used to represent real world entity. Whenever I want to reuse the properties of some other class, that time I'm going to use inheritance. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my introductory session on object-oriented programming with Java. I'm Revati from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, this is the subject which is introduced by the Mysore University, and this subject is only for second semester BCA student. Anyway, dear student, let's see the agenda of today's session. So dear student, in my today's session, I'm going to deal with the prerequisites. Along with that, I'm going to deal with learning outcome. Along with that, I'm going to deal with the number of units comes under this subject. Along with that, I'm going to deal with internals as well as question paper pattern. Now, dear student, before going to start my prerequisites, let me to talk something about object-oriented programming with Java. So, what is object-oriented programming? If I consider Java programming language, then this Java programming language is an example for object-oriented programming. That means in Java, everything is treated and considered as objects as well as classes. Now, why it is called Java? So here, Java is nothing but the program name, and it uses object-oriented programming concept. So, at the beginning, Java is named as OYAC. So, what is this OYAC? That is nothing but the coffee beans name. And if I consider Indonesia, the coffee beans name is OYAC. For that reason, Java is called OYAC. In the year 1992. Later, it is renamed as Java in the year 1995. For that reason, whenever I search logo of Java, I'm going to get coffee mug. So what is the logo of Java programming language? That is nothing but coffee mug. So this is all about Java. Now, so dear student, to study this subject, you does not require any other programming knowledge, because I'm going to start from the scratch. That is history about Java. Along with that, evolution. Along with that, I'm going to start with the data types, literals, tokens. So I'm going to start with each and every single unit. So to study this subject, you does not require any programming subject knowledge. Without programming knowledge, also you can able to master in this subject. So here I'll start from the beginning. In the sense, I'm going to start from the scratch. So I'm going to teach, I'm going to discuss each and every single units under this subject. Now, let me to discuss the learning outcome of this subject. So dear student, if you thorough with this subject, then you can able to understand the features of Java along with the architecture of Java virtual machine. Anyway, dear student, in my concept class, I'm going to discuss what is Java virtual machine. But in today's learning outcome, it helps to understand the features of Java along with the architecture of Java virtual machine. Now, we can able to write our own Java program as well as we can able to compile our own Java program. Along with that, I can able to execute our own Java programs. Along with that, we can able to learn the basic data types. So dear student, along with that, we can able to understand control flow construct. That means how the program flows and what are the constructs we can have in our Java program. All those things we are going to study. So here it helps to write the program. It helps to compile the program as well as it helps to execute the Java program. Along with that, user or programmer can able to get the idea about data types as well as control flow constructs. Along with that, how typecasting is done. That means how we can able to convert one type of data into another type of data. So dear student, let's see the next learning outcome. So here, if I consider Java program, it's mainly used to identify the objects. It is mainly used to identify the classes as well as it is mainly used to identify the relationship among the classes as well as objects. Now, the next learning outcome here is the student will able to demonstrate programs based on interfaces. That means it allows the user or student to create their own interfaces as well as threads. Along with that, students are able to handle the exception. So what is exception here? There is nothing but errors. That means students are able to handle the errors very effectively. Now, the last outcome here is students are able to write the programs as well as compile the programs as well as execute the programs. That includes graphical user interface. That means user can able to create their own forms. When I say it is form, we are going to have text box, labels, buttons, etc. By using Java programming language, students are able to create graphical user interface as well as event-driven programs. So these are the certain learning outcome of this subject. Now, dear student, as I discussed, if I consider this subject, under this subject, I'm going to get 3 units. So how many units I'm going to get here? It is 3 units. And you need to study all 3 units because if I consider marks which is allotted for each unit, that is 20 marks. That means from each unit, I can able to get 20 marks. So, for that reason, I want to study all 3 units. So, dear student, if I consider unit 1, under unit 1, I'm going to get 2 chapters. One is Introduction to Java. Another one is Objects and Classes. So, dear student, under chapter 1, that is Introduction to Java, that means I'm going to study basics about Java programming language, evolution, history, origin, all those things I'm going to study under Introduction to Java. Along with that, I'm going to deal with data types. What is variables, how to define variables, what are the different kinds of operators I can able to use in my program. Along with that, I'm going to study the control structures. So, dear student, when I talk about control structure, here I'm going to have selection construct as well as iteration construct. Anyway, we are going to study for loop, for each, while, do while, all those things under control structures. Along with that, we are going to discuss Java methods as well as arrays in Java. That means how can I create arrays in Java, how to access array elements, all those things we are going to deal under chapter 1. So, dear student, under chapter 2, I'm going to deal with objects and classes. And if I consider Java programming language, here all the things are treated as objects as well as classes. So, what is object? There is nothing but the instance of the class. Now, what is class? It's mainly used to represent real world entity or real world problems. All those things we are going to deal under second chapter. So, here we are going to study basics of objects, how to create objects, how to use the objects, how to create class, how to create constructor, what is the use of finalizer, then what is visibility modifiers, how we can able to change the visibility. Along with that, we are going to deal methods as well as objects. So, these are the 2 chapters comes under unit 1. Now, if I go with unit 2, so dear student, here also we are going to get 2 chapters. So, one is inheritance as well as polymorphism. And the next chapter here is multi-threading in Java. So, dear student, if I go with first chapter, I'm going to get the concept called inheritance. So, what is inheritance? That is, acquire the properties of other class. That means, whenever I want to reuse the properties of some other class, that time I'm going to use inheritance. Let me take simple example here that I want to attend some function. To attend some function, I want some jewelry. So, what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my mother's jewelry and I'm going to wear and I'm going to attend the function. So, what I'm going to do here? I'm going to acquire the property or jewelry of my mother, then I'm going to attend the function. So this is nothing but the inheritance. So it is nothing but the reusability. Along with that, polymorphism. So what is this polymorphism? So here it includes two words. One is poly, another one is morphism. Poly means what? Many, and morphism is nothing but the forms. That means many forms. For example, think that I'm the faculty and I'm going to take theory classes as well as I'm going to take practical classes. So here I am the one person but responsible for performing different tasks. That is, I'm going to take theory class. Along with that, I'm going to take practical class. So here, this is the best example for polymorphism. So here, we are going to study inheritance. That is nothing but the different kinds of inheritance. That is single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hybrid inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, etc. Along with that, we are going to study what is super keyword as well as subclass. That is super keyword, that is superclass as well as subclass. Along with that, we are going to study what is method overriding. Along with that, we are going to study object classes as well as polymorphism. Now, if I consider second chapter, here I'm going to study multi-threading. So, what is thread here? There is nothing but light-weighted process or program in a execution is known as thread. When I have more than two processes, then it is termed as multi-thread or multiple process. So here we are going to study how to manage multiple process. What are the different functions which is provided by the Java program to manage multi-threads. All those things we are going to study under chapter 2. So here we are going to study thread life cycle. Along with that, we are going to study methods, runnable interface, thread synchronization, exception handling with try as well as catch block. So what is exception handling? There is nothing but the error handling. So here user can able to handle the errors by using try or catch or finally keywords. Along with that, we are going to study what is Java beans. Along with that, we are going to study how to establish connection between two systems. There is nothing but network programming. So these are the two chapters we are going to study under unit 2. Moving further, I'm going to have third unit. Once again, under third unit, I'm going to get two chapters. One is event and graphical user interface programming. Along with that, I'm going to have input programming. So dear student, if I consider chapter 1 under unit 2, we have events. That means how to manage the event, how to handle the events, as well as how to trigger the events. All those things we are going to study under event. And if I want to create user interface, then I'm going to have graphical user interface programming. That means I can able to create my own panels, frames, buttons or labels, text box or checkbox, radio buttons, all those things are we're going to study under graphical user interface programming. And if I consider the second chapter under unit 3, that is input output programming. So here we are going to study how to read the input and how to write the output. So all those things we are going to study under second chapter. So dear student, if I consider Java programming language, under this we are going to get 3 units, and 3 units are going to have same weightage. From each unit you are going to get 20 marks, that is total 60 marks paper. So dear student, let's discuss the internal pattern. So dear student, here you're going to have 3 internals and each internal carries 30 marks. And if I consider first internals, which unit? Suppose you have to study that is first unit. For the second internals, second unit, and for the third internals, third unit. And while finalizing your internal marks, I'm going to consider the average of 3 internals. Let's see the question paper pattern. Now, dear student, if I consider final exam question paper, here you're going to write the exam only for 60 marks. And under this subject, you're having 3 units. From each 3 units, you can able to expect 20 marks. So it is total 60 marks. Now, if I consider question paper pattern, here we have part A as well as part B. If I consider part A, under part A, I'm going to get 15 marks question. So here, this 15 marks is divided into 8 or 7 marks. That means here you're going to get 8 mark question or 7 marks question. By adding 8 plus 7, we are going to get 15 marks. Now, you have to answer any 3 questions. 3 into 15, it is 45 marks. So, dear student, if I go with part B, see here, I want to attend only 3 questions under part B, and each question carries 5 marks. So, it is 15 marks. So, here 15 plus 45, it is total 60 marks. And to get out marks in this subject is very easy, because here we are going to study only the basic concepts about Java program. And if you are going to attend all the classes properly and you're going to study all 3 units properly, then it is very easy to score 60 out of 60 marks. Now, let me to consider the Bible which I want to refer. So, dear student, to clear the subjects as well as to score good marks in this subject, I want to refer the textbooks named Programming with Java by E. Balaguru Swami. And if you refer this textbook, that is enough for this subject. Anyway, dear student, in this subject, we are going to have 3 units and we are going to have 3 internals along with that one final exam. And the final exam is only for 60 marks. Anyway, dear student, from the next session, I'm going to start with my concept class. Anyway, don't forget to watch my session. Let's meet in the next session with the concept class. Until that, keep learning and keep watching. Thank you.